I'm J.D. Hayworth. From his early days, criminal defense attorney F. Lee Bailey was considered a trendsetter and a trailblazer in the legal profession. And now he's written a book entitled Excellence in Cross-Examination, where, besides talking about his colorful career, it seems his goal is to try to get American defense attorneys to fight to acquittal instead of resorting to plea bargains. And joining us now, F. Lee Bailey. Good afternoon, Counselor. It is so good to have you here on America's Forum.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for the compliment.
Before we look back on your career, let's talk about your book and the state of American defense trial craft. Are defense attorneys too often taking the easy way out?
Well, at the risk of a little promo, this is the book, and it was intended to teach lawyers, young and old, how to develop themselves as cross-examiners. You can't make one, and you can't really teach one, but you can show them the way, and that's what we've tried to do. We hope this book is going to live on for 50 years, because the last one was written over 50 years ago.
Well, it sounds like there is a market for that, because if it's been a half century, it's time to take another look and a reassessment at the art of cross-examination. Counselor, your career has been highlighted by high-profile cases, but I think most of us believe the OJ Simpson trial stands above all the others. Tell us how you prepared and tried for the case all the way to acquittal, as your book would suggest.
Well, when Bob Shapiro was first retained, and that was really for the purpose of persuading the police not to indict OJ, he called me immediately because OJ got arrested after what is called the low-speed chase, and that is an oxymoron if I ever heard one. In any event, he asked me to take charge of preparing the case for trial, and I did immediately. Got a bunch of investigators, some computer people working, and I did so with reluctance because in California, any 2-week trial can take a year.
When we look back upon that OJ trial, a recent piece in Vanity Fair suggested that that particular trial was really the introduction to, quote, reality TV for the American public. Do you agree with that assessment?
No, I don't. There had been many prior trials that had been televised. Some had been watched fairly intently. However, this was a circus, and the big camera on the wall brought it home to American television, and many people were fascinated by it, especially those in different time zones or those who were confined to the home or some nursing place for one reason or another. So it became, unfortunately, an example of an American trial. It was a poor example.
Counselor, I first came into contact with you or became conscious of your work growing up through television. You hosted a series of interviews for ABC in the 60s. Later, you came back to television in the 1980s with syndicated fare. I believe the name of the program was Lie Detector. Did your training in the law, specifically cross-examination, prepare you as a broadcaster, because you seem to be a natural in front of the camera?
Well, for the first show, which was an interview show of famous people in their homes, although I was urged to do so, I didn't cross-examine anyone. I thought that would have been rude. My questions were gentle and gave the guest a chance to put his best side forward. On the other hand, the show Lie Detector had to do with people who either passed or failed a polygraph test, and if they failed, I often went right after them with cross-examination to try to get them to admit that they had lied. Sometimes we did, most of the time we did not.
Returning to your career in the law, another case that comes to mind, the Sam Shepard case back in the 50s, and it is held by popular culture historians that that case was believed to be the inspiration for the TV show and subsequent motion picture The Fugitive, in which Dr. Sam Shepard was accused of killing his wife. Counselor, can you tell me why you took on that case?
Well, first of all, I took it on because I got angry. A lieutenant of detectives in Cleveland said to me after a big argument about Shepard, he said, if Sam Shepard is innocent, I don't want to know it. And I said, yes, now I bet there are a lot just like you in Ohio, and I'm going to make them as miserable as I can by getting him out, showing he didn't do it. But there's no question it inspired The Fugitive, because the producer who put The Fugitive together was my producer at the TV show that you mentioned in '67. The nice thing about that was when I went to pick a jury for the second trial in 1966, The Fugitive had been running on TV for several years, was very popular, and everybody knew The Fugitive was innocent. That was a bit of a leg up, putting a jury in the box.
Broadcasting where a real career in the law and fictionalization actually aids the defense attorney. That's an interesting concept, Counselor. Just about a minute and a half left. And reading back over your life, I understand you were an undergraduate at Harvard and then became a Marine Corps aviator. Did your time in the Marine Corps prepare you for courtroom combat?
Actually, my time in the Marine Corps was the reason I became a lawyer. I had no intention of doing anything but writing. And then the Marine Corps conscripted me because they ran out of lawyers. And I found that I loved the life in the courtroom. And I temper that by saying once I get out in the civilian life, I didn't love it so much anymore because it was nowhere near as clean. It was a dirty business much of the time.
Perhaps unfair to ask this question, not trying to cross-examine or put you on the point, but we've got about 30 seconds. Is there a major regret you have looking back over the life you've lived?
Yes. When I made a deal with the government, I didn't bother to get it in writing. Biggest mistake I ever made.
Always get it in writing. Good advice, no matter the situation or the circumstance. F. Lee Bailey, we thank you for your time. The new book, Excellence in Cross-Examination, Legal Scholarship, and More. It is an honor to have you, sir, and we hope to have you back again from time to time here on America's Forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, this is one of the fun things about this job. Sure, I've served in Congress, but I just had a chance, metaphorically speaking, to cross-examine F. Lee Bailey. Who would have thought? There's more coming up on America's Forum.